I'm not sure which is more plastic, the cheese or the plastic it's wrapped in.
Oh man, I was about to say you're the cheesiest.
Oh,
Hey, you know why I love
thanks.
MMA so much?
This is pretty neat.
That is 100% true, but it's also because it brings us together.
You know what? Violence really does bring people together.
Yes, let's get back to violence.
Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Yeah, it's like that, y'all.
It's time for the Pretty Neat Podcast.
It's like that. Come on. Yeah. Come on. It's like that. It's like that.
Man, we were off.
On our picks, there's your intro. Boy, were we wrong.
How wrong were we? This is the commercial we're writing for Rough Draft Kings right now.
Man, don't fall in love with your rough DraftKings. This is how I gamble, man. I just lose. I just
UFC
lose.
262 would have crushed me, but
Yeah.
I'm so happy I'm broke because I would be broke if if I had money.
So I mean, do we just want to jump into that main card?
UFC 262 is worth jumping into.
I think so too. So I'm going to be honest. I watched basically the entire card, the undercard or the early prelims, the prelims. I saw pretty much all of it, and
Hey, me too.
really good night of fights.
Yes, yeah, it really, really was.
What did you think of Valentina's sister and Andrea Lee?
Wow, Andrea Lee was like a precursor to Dariush.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just domination, domination, and I mean, she's really good. I'm really good coming from my silly pudgy fanboy perspective, but like,
Oh, she does good at the fighting.
monster,
Yeah,
loved it.
she had several real close submission attempts or submission chances, I should say, on Antonina, and I was very impressed with her. I do not know, I'll be honest, her grappling background.
Yeah.
That she had a stoppage over Heather Bassett at LFA 4 four
She beat
years ago.
Rachel recently, Rachel Ostovich too, by
She
armbar.
Andrea Lee,
I believe so.
almost 6 years ago. Yeah, September in
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
it was a
big.
while
That's
ago.
Invicta. Big John McCarthy had that fight. Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
so a little bit, it's tough. A lot of times fighters, you don't know what their specialty is in, and
Mm-hmm.
just because someone is a black belt in jiu-jitsu or a multi-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, she is a black belt in Kyokushin and a brown belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu under Helson Gracie, and a brown belt in judo, which is kind of my secret favorite martial art. Like, hey, what if we just clash shoulders together and then threw each other on the ground? Would that be cool? Um,
Where do you think she shapes up now then after something like that? Like what's next for her?
how many miles across is the Grand Canyon at its longest point?
I'm gonna guess. Wait, miles?
Yeah, dude, I don't know anything about the Grand Canyon. You want to do it
Okay,
in
it's
meters? I don't give a fuck.
I'm just, big. It's big miles
Yeah, the
across.
gap between her and Valentina is that. Okay. If you Now, it's not that she struggled, excuse me, with Antonina. It's that if you can't clean out your opponents,
Yeah, yeah.
then there's what are you gonna do with Valentina Shevchenko? What are you gonna do? You have to be it's not, again, it's not that it was close, but it was too close to make me think that she could really have any chance against Valentina. Now, would I be interested to see her against a Jennifer Maya or a Chukagian? Maybe. I mean,
Hmm.
Valentina is just a different animal.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It would. I'm ready to see her fight anyone I haven't seen her fight. I guess that's where I'm at with her.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
What other fights did jump out at you?
Yeah, a couple of good ones right after that one. Jordan Wright and
Fight.
Jamie Pickett, a couple of contender series guys. Did you have any thoughts on that one?
Jordan Wright's a beast
Mm-hmm.
and seemingly can't lose. He also is very, very silly looking. He kind of looks like somebody I would have gone to college with, that's for sure.
Yep.
Like this guy is going to be far more successful than he should be type of friend.
Okay.
Just kind of like he's either too dumb or too smart and you can never figure it out.
Sure.
And he kind of fights that way. He's the Beverly Hills Ninja. He's Chris Farley, man. He's either too dumb or too smart. And I want to see what happens with him. I mean, he lost to Joaquin Buckley, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's it. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see where he goes from here. And he's at middleweight. Let's see him fight Sam Alvey.
Hey, Jordan Wright, come on the podcast. I'm all for him fighting Sam Alvey, or a good friend of the show, Sam Alvey. We can say that now.
We absolutely can.
You know, Jordan Wright does kind of look like a guy that you know, not that you or I would, but somebody might start something with it at the bar, and then all of a sudden you're flat on your back, and he's choking you unconscious, and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny because if you just showed people, not that Jordan Wright's out of shape, but if you showed people a picture of Jamie Pickett and a picture of Jordan Wright and said, "Hey, who are the two of these two guys who wins in a fight?" Nobody is picking Jordan Wright. But
like, what kind of fight is it? Like, or does it have to be a fight? Can it be perhaps a dart match or competitive Sudoku? Because then I'd give it to Jordan Wright. He looks like the guy who was president of every math club I was ever in. And yes, I was in math club.
Yeah, he definitely is a beast on the chessboard. And hey, no shade at chess, man. Chess is a legit sport.
Yeah. I really want to talk about Edson Barbosa and Shane Burgos.
Okay.
I mean, I know that there's a million other good fights.
Well, so there was some controversy with one of the judges' scorecards for the Venata Mike Grundy fight.
Wasn't it just somebody had scored all 3 rounds
for Grundy? Yeah.
For Grundy.
Yeah. So here's the thing with fight sports judges, man. I go all the way back to Canelo Triple G1. I know it's boxing, but similar thing.
Hey, those are the same judges most of the time.
A lot of times
they part of the fucking problem.
A lot of times they are the same judges, and I'm gonna look this up while we talk so that I know I have it right. Now I know the judge was Adelaide Bird, but whose husband Tony is a referee, I believe. Adelaide Bird had it 118-110, which is effectively saying Canelo won 11 of 12 rounds. And anybody who watched Canelo Triple G1 probably knows that Triple G won the fight. But even if he didn't, now that fight was, of course, famously a draw. Even if you said that Canelo won, he did not win 11-1. That's silly. So every now and then you'll get one of these judges who is just watching a different fight. And I don't know. I don't know how you really solve for that.
Yeah, and there's so many like speculative discussions on that a lot of people who know far more than I do on the matter have thrown out having a panel of 5 judges and a video judge and off-site judging. If somebody's in control against the cage or something like that from a different angle, it can look completely different. But if they're all watching the same monitors, there can be no question. Things like that. Like, I'm just kind of ranting on it.
Yeah,
but
spitballing for sure.
I'm all for retired fighters, but then there's like gym loyalties and things like that I've
head trauma. Yeah. I don't know about retired fighters. I think you can be a trained judge. I think the issue is so much of it is subjective. Like, yes, they have a point scoring system. Yeah, they want to see ring control. They want to see cage control. If you're mounted in an MMA fight for most of the round, you're probably going to win takedowns. There's all these little things, but fight sports, combat sports are really the only. Now I will caveat. Organized single sport events are very specific. So if you go to a jiu-jitsu tournament, if you go to a Muay Thai tournament, if you go to a karate tournament, you have a very specific set of scoring rules, but it's still based on someone watching you do it. There's no objectiveness, right? The basketball either goes in the hoop or it doesn't. The ball either crosses the goal line or it doesn't in football. And even if it doesn't, they can watch the video and make sure.
We might be getting there. We might be getting there with like I think it's PFL Smart Cage, where they're literally measuring the velocity of punches. And like, so if they can do that, you might be able to get to a point in combat sports and the science in the ring where you can determine the amount of force that a punch had, like, and where on the body that is and what organs it are. Like if we're simulating Mortal Kombat,
right,
you might actually be able to put point values on the literal amount of force. But then again, the amount of force that can be absorbed is relative.
Yeah.
So that actually is meaningless. That's subjective too.
I wouldn't be as interested in a scoring system that relies on velocity of punch.
No, not necessarily. I just mean like impact.
Or even impact. I think accuracy is a good one though. In boxing, they have CompuBox, and those numbers are usually pretty damn close. I mean, you don't want that to be the only deciding factor, but
like take it, like let's just say as an extreme scientific example, there you and I were across from each other and we couldn't move, and we punched each other exactly in the same place on the face, and we did it at the exact same speed, everything, and like we weigh different amounts, so you would hit me harder, right?
Yeah, also
I assume.
I train.
You're taller.
Also I
you
train.
Taller. Also you train.
Right.
I don't hit anything except for singles, craft singles.
Wow.
Wait, I could say something funnier, like nah, never mind. I'll just cut that part out.
Craft Singles, come on the pod.
Yeah, sponsored by Craft Singles.
This episode of the Pretty Neat Podcast is brought to you by Craft Singles. I'm not sure which is more plastic, the cheese or the plastic it's wrapped in.
Oh man, I was about to say you're the cheesiest.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey, buddy Dom. Hey, you know why I love MMA so much?
Because it's pretty neat.
That is 100% true, but it's also because it brings us together.
It you know what? Violence really does bring people together.
Yes, let's get back to violence.
All right.
We were saying, so we punch each other in the face.
Yeah.
Okay. We could measure that you hit me harder.
Yeah,
and it could be in the same spot. But what if you weren't expecting it? So
or
you got knocked out
head,
or something like that. Yeah. There's definitely ways that you can't really measure that.
Right.
Fuck. Yeah, it's really hard. You really just have to have people with really experienced eyes, reasonable judgment, and I think maybe who could argue their case in front of a panel. And that could be a commission of coaches and refs that are joined in some sort of
and the athletes
union,
themselves,
but a
frankly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like an athletic commission, an athlete and coach commission, an ACC. That's basically the oversight for the refs. Or
I don't think
judging.
that's
I don't know.
Terrible. Really I do want to talk about the refs. Actually, I was with this next fight coming up. I was not actually quite a bit to talk about on these next coming fights to tie up the scoring thing, but it is worth mentioning because it was in an undercard fight on the main card, right? Venata and Mike Grundy, and ultimately, are either one of those guys going to be fighting for a title anytime soon? Probably not, right? They both looked pretty good. And no shade at either of them, but what if that had happened in the main event?
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. It's just really, really frustrating, especially when like you're someone like me, and I'm sure a lot of fans out there who have watched it for 2 decades and three decades, who may not train but understand, and like control is a really, really that what is control means a lot of different things to judges. To me, it's controlling the center of the octagon. If you're pushing the guy against the fence, you are owning the space.
Yeah.
That is, you are in control of the fight. Minus, of course, if you're grappling them, there's grappling control, obviously.
Yep.
But like, I don't know if judges see control that way. Because
Well,
like,
I
if
mean,
Edson Barboza's on the outside, he's a threat. Like,
yeah.
sometimes.
So in
Sometimes.
boxing, which
Mhm.
I maybe make too many comparisons to, but it's the closest thing we have that isn't MMA.
Hey, fists hitting faces, bruh. Fists hitting
Rarely,
faces.
yeah, rarely, you're right about that. Rarely does the guy that's going backwards look like they're winning the fight, right? And in there's something about fighting that's
Yeah.
very primal, right? It's very,
Yeah.
everybody can relate to it because you've at least thought about what you would do.
Mhm.
Like, I can watch LeBron James run up and down a court, and I can, yeah, I've played basketball, but I haven't really played basketball. I haven't done what he's doing. And I've in no way, shape, or form done what these UFC fighters do. But
if I played basketball, I'd end up like Tom Segura.
yeah,
I'd fall.
You'd be destroyed.
Yep.
The problem is you can sometimes look at it and say, well, okay, well, if you took the round timer off the screen, you didn't know which round it is. I didn't even realize it was a sanctioned fight. You oftentimes are not going to think the person going backwards is winning, if that makes sense. And furthermore, in MMA, if you're moving, Stipe, was it Verdum that he knocked out going backwards?
Yeah. Hey, Conor McGregor became the highest paid athlete walking backwards on Aldo.
Conor McGregor, excellent counterpuncher. You could call it walking backwards. I'd call it counterpunching. Stipe was literally
backwards.
moving his feet backwards.
They were both.
They both were. Stipe's, I would argue, is a little more.
It really was, because Verdum, he was like literally running after him, chasing him around the octagon.
Yeah. And here's the thing: I love Conor, and Stipe is my favorite fighter of all time. So I'm not taking a shot at him in MMA because it is so much controlled chaos. You can make the you chase John Jones around, you're going to catch his elbow to your face, right? You can't do that. So you get him going backwards, like, okay, fine. But if you take Canelo, right, and Billy Joe, people were saying Billy Joe was winning that fight, he wasn't winning. He was just doing better than most guys Canelo faces until Canelo fractured his orbital bone.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: Billy Joe was not winning that fight. He wasn't losing as badly as some guys have looked against Canelo. Because Billy Joe's a super talented fighter. Maybe two, maybe three. But here's the thing: he got his orbital bone fractured.
Yeah, but anybody who's winning a fight against Demetrius Johnson going into the fifth, I'm rooting against. Like, some people just as they get better, as the fight goes on, they're winning.
What I'm saying, and what I talked about last week with Canelo, is he stands in the middle of the ring and he walks towards you and he makes you go backwards. And in boxing, you really don't want to be going backwards. Take Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury 2. Tyson Fury said, I'm going to make him go backwards. They call it getting him on his back foot. That's what he's talking about. Make him move backwards and fight off of his back foot. Wilder had no idea what he was doing, and he could not handle it. And that's something that takes years and years and years to learn. So there is an element, I'm going to bring this all the way around. You ready? There is an element for these judges of, well, what am I seeing from two people in a cage who are fighting? Who do I feel like is winning? And it's not always who we feel like. I've watched basically every sport since the day I was born. There are times where you're watching a team that might be winning by 10 points, but if you couldn't see the score, you would swear they were losing. So it happens, right? But ultimately, I'm an Angel fan. I've seen a lot of games where we're up and it seems like we should be losing. Ultimately, you don't want to have such a big discrepancy, and this is why they step out when they do, and there has to be a better way to do it. You can argue decisions, right? You can argue split decisions or draws or some forms of no contest, even though I don't necessarily always agree. We had three, and then you get into a fight we'll talk about in a minute. You have a judge who sees Grundy as winning all three rounds, and then you have Dariush Tony Ferguson, and Dariush very clearly won all three rounds. So It's not like they get it wrong all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like it seems like some of them have, like, I would rather have a judge who has a well-rounded understanding of boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, or MMA as a whole. But it seems like some of them know boxing and don't know anything about grappling and don't know anything about jiu-jitsu.
Right.
But know about wrestling. So the guy on top is clearly winning, but not if it's Charles Oliveira on the bottom.
Right.
Like, it's not spread across. The disciplines aren't spread across the judges, in my opinion.
Well,
and
no,
maybe they should have MMA specific and not be borrowing boxing.
Yeah, maybe so, and have them go and at least observe a grappling tournament, a judo tournament. Have them go see some of this other stuff and really see. And maybe they do that, and we just don't know because we're two jackasses. It's definitely possible. Yeah. Let's move on if that's okay. I got to ask you, of course, Andre Muniz and Jacare Souza.
Well, his arm broke.
Yeah.
He's a tough motherfucker.
Yeah, the toughest.
Did you see the X-ray? I mean, he's broken his arm already. Like,
so I'm gonna tell you a short story, right? Okay. I was sitting on my couch. The fight was on the screen, and I was reading a book, and I was listening to the commentary and glancing.
Oh, you poor thing.
And I heard it. I swear to you.
Oh no!
When it happened, I heard it.
Oh God!
And I looked up, but they were still fighting. The fight was still going on, and I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe." I don't know. Whatever. This is, houses. And then the ground shifts, and and then they stop. And then I'm thinking to myself, "There's no way I heard it." And then, of course, they show the replays, and you can hear it. And
oh man. Yeah. It was what's funny is I have a story also, and it involves when I was watching Weidman with my wife, and so that happened, and I saw it, and she saw me see it.
Yeah.
So like she saw me freak out and look up. So this occasion I was at a buddy's house, and his girlfriend was there, and she saw it, and I did not. So I heard it. And she like flinched and looked up at me and was just like, "Holy shit, he broke his arm."
Yeah.
And I think I was shouting, "Tim Sylvia Part 2, Tim Sylvia Part 2."
I think there's an argument for, I mean, I guess you got, if the UFC wants to pay these guys, or PFL or Bellator or whoever wants to pay these guys, and the guy wants to do it, but at some point, a couple of these guys are just a little bit past their prime, and a little. I mean, what was Anderson Silva really doing in a cage just recently? Right? Like, come on.
Yeah. And he officially retired this week. We didn't even say anything.
Yeah, he did. But why didn't we say anything? Because so rarely do you go out on your own terms, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So rarely. And GSP is a good example, right? He came back and fought Bisping 3 weeks after Bisping had fought somebody else, choked him out. Okay, great. GSP, listen, these people who GSP Kamaru, like, you know what Kamaru would do to GSP right now?
Oh,
come on.
I would not have hope for GSP, and that might be one of the first times I can say that honestly.
And GSP knows exactly what Kamaru would do to him.
Yeah.
Kamaru seems like the type of guy who's simply too respectful to take that fight. So let's just stop. GSP went out on his own terms.
Why would GSP lose that? Because like I could see him.
Why?
I think that Usman would overbear and overpower. I think that kind of goes. I think that's pretty clear. But would he really be able just to hold him up against the cage? Would GSP's takedown defense and offense just be that crippled? Do you think he's just that old?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Yeah.
I think that Kamaru is, he's so skilled. I mean, we talked so much about him on our debut episode, and
He might be the
He's-
next GOAT. He really
He's
might
in the
be.
conversation. I mean, if he was
Yeah.
28, we'd really be having the conversation, right? But I think he's 33. Fighters don't live, well, nobody lives forever, but they don't
Yeah.
last forever. It's not a long career that they typically have. So
Hey, we might be having the GOAT conversation in a couple of years about Charlie Duchamp, man. Seriously. Not
we'll
Charlie
get there.
DeBronx anymore.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
I know. I'm not segueing. I'm just excited. I'm excited. And I know that we both picked Chandler.
Yeah.
But
No. We'll
holy
get there.
balls.
Hang
Okay.
on. We'll get
Sorry.
there.
I get excited.
So, because we got two other pretty good fights to talk about before
really
that.
Neat. It's just really
It
neat.
is pretty neat.
Okay. What do we got?
So Kamaru starts as GSP. We'll just end it there. So Edson Barboza and Shane Burgos.
Man, I thought he died. I legitimately thought his heart stopped.
What a weird. Well, his brain stopped.
Yeah. This is 100% true. Yes. It was weird. It was honestly quite scary to watch.
Yeah.
There's clearly been wobbly legs and rubber legs. People look like they think the ground is moving underneath them, of course.
Yeah.
But he was KO'd, like, which I'm gonna add a sound effect and say KO'd. That's the one that had the sound effect, by the way.
Okay.
But I thought his heart. He reminded me of all the sob stories of basketball players who play a game and have a heart and their heart goes out on the court.
Yeah. Or a guy collapses during a 2-a-day in football or soccer. Yeah, absolutely.
It happens. Athletes die of heart attacks.
Yep.
And then it reminded me of Dan Hardy. Like, Dan Hardy had the heart condition. And like when he announced his heart condition, I was like, he's one of my favorite fighters. Shout out to Dan Hardy. Come on the Pretty Neat podcast. I think you're pretty neat, but I fucking respect your distance, my friend.
Right.
The outlaw, man. And but dude, when he announced his heart condition, I thought, get the hell out. Like, do not, no, not a chance. And so when that happened to Shane, and I'm not the biggest Shane fan in terms of, I don't know, I haven't followed his career. I'm a fan of his fighting clearly now, especially he put it to Barboza despite getting dismantled. But yeah, man, I thought his heart gave out. I literally thought he was fine and his heart stopped a couple of minutes or moments prior, and the blood stopped going to his brain and he was dead.
See, I'm less worried about the heart in those moments as I am about the brain. And this is kind of what I want to talk about with these referees. Okay. So the referee for that fight was Mike Beltran. And listen,
probably one of the best to have in there in that situation, by the way.
Maybe.
But
I recently have really struggled, and I should probably have done a better job charting these, I'll be honest. But a lot of these fights are like the guy goes down and the referee's like, well, hit him in the head 6 times just to make like really sure. And it's like, and it even happened in the Jordan Wright Jamie Pickett fight with Kerry Hatley, who I thought had a really rough night as a referee.
Well, this is why I think a topic I've wanted to bring up with you many times is I like PFL's ref cam, because it could be that they're just in the wrong spot and we're being fanboys assholes talking about it after the fact, right?
Yeah, maybe. But here's the problem. Mike Beltran, experienced referee, right? If anybody who's watched the UFC fight has seen him, even if you don't know his name.
Yeah, just picture the dad from How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah,
just
that's
got
right.
That beard tied down
that
to his
magnificent
crotch.
Beard.
Magnificent.
Burgos is standing in there with his hands up, and then he very clearly, listen, I've been drunk at a lot of bars. I know what somebody who can't get their feet under them looks like.
Yeah.
He stumbles backwards and falls down, and his hands were at his sides.
Yeah, when he
and
fell,
Barboza, who I think is a gentleman, did not level him a couple of times like some fighters would have. Shout out Paulo Costa. He or Husamar Palhares.
Yeah,
you've got to hammer fist him. You're taught to let the referee stop it. I get that. I don't blame the fighter. Mike Beltran, where are you, man? Get in there. He just stumbled backwards and fell down. The fight is over.
Yeah.
It's over. And this is one of the areas where I think boxing has a better system. The referee, and sometimes boxing gets in trouble for early stoppages. I say better early than late. Frankly, the before this one, the Jordan Wright Jamie Pickett fight, or 2 fights before, is Kerry Hatley, who also had a rough go in the Bontarine Schnell fight. We'll get there.
Yep.
Jamie Pickett was on all fours with his hands on his head while Jordan Wright hit him.
Yeah.
Listen, go to one jiu-jitsu class, go to one boxing class, go to one Muay Thai class. They literally will never teach you to get on all fours and cover your hands with your head. This isn't fucking kindergarten. Get under a desk in case of an earthquake or the fucking 1940s nuclear bomb is going to go off. Fucking flash, right? No. If the instant the referee is concerned that the fighter can't protect himself, it has to be over.
Sure.
It has to be. And that's my issue with Mike Beltran. And so Edson Barbosa looks pretty good, right? Knocks out Shane Burgos. Yeah. Then we get to my guy, Kerry Hatley. What do you think? Chukagian Arujao?
Hey, we talked about how there's a 5,000 foot wall to the top.
Yes.
And like at the base of that wall is Caitlin. And then there's another 5,000 foot wall, it seems, to everybody else now. Is that just me? Or does it feel like Caitlin is like the only person you put up with Amanda who's a real threat, and nobody's a real threat to her?
No, so Caitlin herself, in one of the promo sort of outlets they had, or maybe it was on Embedded, which again was fantastic for this week. Caitlin said, "I've kind of been the person a lot of people have beat to get to Valentina, and I'm done with that." Yeah, and
I think I said Amanda before. My bad.
Well, I mean, it may as well be, right?
Sure.
Here's the deal. I really don't know.
You're gonna die. You're gonna die. Do you want a bullet or a lion?
well, yeah. Frankly, you are, and
I'll take a rose.
Well,
at least she'll put me to sleep.
So Vivian was number 7, and Caitlin number 2 going into this fight. I would imagine Caitlin actually probably won't move up because Jessica Andrade is still there, or even if they flip flop.
They'll probably flip.
But let's say they do. Okay, great. Caitlin's the number 1 contender. Yeah, I guess you give her a shot at Valentina. They haven't fought, have they?
I believe that. Yeah, they fought recently.
Oh yeah, they sure did. 247 Jones Reyes, February of last year.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
But you know
she
what?
Also lost to she did lose to Andrade, and Andrade did lose though. So I don't know. But they might flip. Do you think they fight for top contender now? And
I think
Valentina fights whoever she wants. I don't know if she's booked.
I do. I think they go.
They fight for a rematch.
I do, and then the winner gets Valentina, and then Valentina disposes of them, and then you try to figure out a way to get her in there with Amanda. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it.
I would like to see them maybe convince Zhang to fight the Bullet to move up. I think that's the way to go. I think that let Rose.
What is it? 10 pounds?
Yes, they're straw weight right now, Weili and Rose. I don't think that she will beat Rose, is my opinion.
Who, Zhang?
Zhang, yeah. I don't think that was a fluke. I think Rose has her number, just like Joanna. And I think that still has Joanna's too. I don't think Joanna has a shot down there either. Not saying Joanna should move up, but I would like to see Zhang challenge.
Zhang seems to have the body, the frame for it.
They're like counter forces. They like literally, they're both like bred to be weapons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would love to see those two go at it. If that'd be a nice super fight, in my opinion.
Shevchenko and Zhang
fight. Yeah. I think that would be the fight I would make. Anyway.
Yeah, and you know what? Shout out the UFC, because Fight Night this coming week, Cody Garbrandt I mean,
Right?
they just what a stable they've and just a calendar they've been able to put together. It has really been. I
Incredible
mean,
year.
it's
Nice.
nothing short of. So
Pretty
you've
neat.
got it's nothing short of pretty neat. So you've got Cody Garbrandt and Rob Font, and then under that, Carla Esparza, who I was actually going to mention, is fighting, and I'm gonna fuck this up, Yan Xiaonan.
Yeah. I
And
think it's Yan
so
Jinan. Yeah.
and so what's interesting about that is the 3 and 4 ranking underneath Rose. And so if Zhang Wei Li is gonna go up, you and I have just decided and fight Valentina. I don't know where Joanna's
well,
at,
I
but
am an owner of Endeavor stock, so I'm part owner of UFC. I'm going to use my power,
okay.
my one-time veto, and I think this will be the thing I request when I have my one-on-one with Dana.
I like it.
Cool. I'm glad we're on board.
Yeah. So
That matchup,
Carla
Great
Esparza and Xiaonan. Now okay, so that's 3-4 in women's strawweight. Yeah, Joanna's there. So you say, okay, Carla beat Jan or Jan beat Carla. Now one of them fights Joanna. Then the winner of that fights Rose. You could work it out that way.
yeah.
If
Yeah.
Jean can go over and fight Valentina, which I'm sure some people at the
Yeah.
UFC have at least talked to her about, because why wouldn't that be something you talk about? Because there's nobody in the
For
flyweight
sure.
division that can beat Valentina. It
For
it
sure.
doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
Nope, it doesn't. It doesn't. Not right now. And I think that that's why Jean would be a fun. I think that moving up obviously would be hard. Anytime you move up, Israel Adesanya taught everyone why moving up is so hard.
And all due
But
respect,
she
I
would-
think a
she
little
would still
harder
do
for
well.
women.
And probably, probably much harder for women. But I think she would do pretty well. I think that would be a really, really fun fight.
Well, there's nobody else in flyweight for her.
Yeah.
I guess maybe
true.
Chukagian has earned a shot, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Next.
it's a good problem to have when you have this
Yeah.
many dominant champions.
Let's talk about the next one.
Yeah,
Bontorin and Schnell.
so I don't really have an issue with this fight or the decision, except for Schnell's mouth guard fell out, and Kerry Hatley was like, "What? What's a mouth guard?"
Yeah,
like,
that happened.
Hey, Kerry Hatley,
Hey,
what are you doing, man?
And we both picked Schnell.
We did.
Yeah. This was a rough week. A rough week for us. I got to tell you, at a possible 15 points each, 5 and 2. This was a week. But I'm going to give us a pass on this one, because there was a lot of this was like a coin flipper's wet dream of a card.
Listen, you're not wrong about that. Other than maybe the co-main and the main event, if you were certain that Rogerio Bontorin was going to beat Matt Schnell, the fuck out of here. Like, no, you weren't. Come on.
Fair enough. I agree with you.
So with that in mind, for as good of fights as they were and are and were well made and enjoyable, don't get me wrong. Again, nobody had that strong of an opinion on that fight, or even really Chukagian and Araujo, or Barboza and Shane Burgos. I would argue maybe I did have a strong opinion on Edson Barboza, and obviously I was wrong. But that's not really the point.
I won't hold that over you for long, because I'm usually the wrong one in this equation. You are far better at your picks than I am.
I don't know if that's true. We'll have to recap at the end of the year.
In the decade that I have known you, your picks have been so. If I had paid attention to you, I would be an analyst or a betting guy now.
I think the issue is what I've gathered, because for our listeners, it was commonplace for us to send each other our picks for every single fight, right? Like, we're not saying this out of turn. I think the thing I saw you doing a lot was kind of trying to pick the underdog.
Oh, I am an underdog picker. I will wear that. And, I'm not even going to say I'm the underdog picker, because I'm not an underdog picker per se. I am a character picker or a fanboy picker. Like, I will bet on who I want to win as opposed to who I think will win most of the
Sure.
time. And it's just an unfortunate thing about my character beforehand. The thing about me that I've been told by anyone who's watched fights with me, which they don't after they watch fights with me because I'm annoying, is that I can analyze in the moment because of watching boxing with my dad growing up. Like we would always spar and watch at the same time. Like that's what we would do. He would say like, okay, let's practice that combo. And that's what we would do, you know?
Who was his guy?
My dad's guy?
Yeah.
Oh
in
gosh,
boxing.
he was a Tyson fan.
Well, he's from that generation, right?
100% that generation. I mean, Tyson's the champs now for me. You know, I'm in my mid 30s, and you know, some of these kids, you know, even Charlie Olives is 28. I think he's got a really bright future. He's a kid to me. And Tyson was that age range for my
Well,
dad.
Michael Chandler's nickname is Iron Mike.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that I'm going to get my dad into Iron Mike. That's for sure.
Well, but Iron Mike Tyson. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I'll use that as a link for him because he's now old and he needs those things.
Shout out, come on the pod.
I'm gonna beep that so nobody looks him up.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. But come on the podcast anyway. I got his first name right? Right?
Yeah, you did.
That's Mr. to me.
Oh no, it's Doctor to you.
Yeah, it is Doctor.
Yeah, and he will make it. Will make it known.
We're talking about a man who I personally witnessed stick his head up to a very pregnant waitress and say, "I'm going to listen to your baby's heartbeat, and it's okay because I'm a doctor." It's 100% a true story. I hope that got a laugh.
Oh, that sounds exactly like something he would do. And the thing is that this is a guy who took the Hippocratic Oath so seriously that he genuinely would sit there and be like, "That's a healthy baby. You should feel very, very lucky. And make sure you have more vitamin D." That's what he would do. That's what he would do. He's the man. Anyway.
Is it a boy or a girl? Well, it isn't breathing.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh wow, what a day.
Yeah, beef that too.
Okay.
Okay. Let's get into the two main fights.
Speaking of it not being alive anymore.
Uh-huh.
I love Tony. But lightweight might I think lightweight is done with Tony. What do you think?
Well, this is kind of what I said last week, and then I picked him anyway.
Yeah, me too. We both said it. This was gonna be the we'll see.
Well, yeah,
and we saw.
If you tuned into Embedded all week, Tony, he had the look of someone who seemed to have figured something out. But I'm going to be honest with you. And if you get this, I'm going to be very impressed. Do you know the last time no. The second to last time I thought a fighter really had something figured out when I was watching Embedded? The most recent time was Stipe Daniel Cormier 2. During Embedded, there was a scene where they were sitting in the hotel lobby. This is like the most UFC fan nerd reference that I'm about to make. But there was a scene where Cormier was sitting in the hotel lobby and Stipe walked by and shook his hand. This is before their second fight, not the third one.
Sure.
And Stipe, a true gentleman, Stipe, come on the Pretty Neat podcast. He says, "Hey, Daniel," shakes his hand. He gets in the elevator. Cormier comes back over to the people he's sitting with, or maybe he goes up to his room and he's talking to his team and he says, "Hey, I saw Stipe in the lobby. His hands feel strong." And I was like, "Oh, we'll put the house on Stipe. Put the house. This is Tuesday, and Cormier is saying that. Put the house on Stipe because Daniel Cormier is saying, 'Hey, I shook Stipe's hand. He feels strong.'" And if you watch Stipe in that whole Embedded and listen to everything he said coming into the fight camp, he was basically saying, "What happened the first time?
He's not going to throw me around.
What happened the first time was luck."
Yeah.
And then if you remember, man, Stipe Cormier 2 was a really good fight because
It was.
Daniel, and I go back and forth on Daniel Cormier. He picked him up and body slammed him. Stipe figured out, oh, you don't really like liver shots, so and you don't seem to see this left hook coming. So here it is, over and fucking over again.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that fight, and then Stipe really beat the shit out of him the third time.
Yeah.
So in watching Embedded this week, there was a lot of stuff on Beneil, there was a lot of stuff on Tony, and I probably misread it because Beneil, I mean, on the Sunday, he was riding around in a horse-drawn carriage in Houston with his wife. That's not a guy who thinks he's going to lose.
Yeah,
and Tony was doing a lot of work to explain to everyone why he had figured out why the losing was happening and that he was going to be better and
fix it. Yeah.
You know,
maybe he did figure out why he was losing, but he did not figure out how to fix it. You know, and I mean,
maybe
I think that maybe even like he found a belief in himself, which is great. Like that's great that he found a belief in himself. And I think evidence of that was like, you know, he called his coaches and Chuck Liddell came out to show they believe in him too.
Sure.
And it was kind of his moment to like get called up to, like, he found himself. But his streak was 12 fights and over 6 years. You know, it's 6 years. The game evolved. People in the division figured him out, maybe, and that's the end of him in the division. I think he could move up. I don't think there'd be anything wrong with him move up to welterweight. See what happens. Unless he wants to just leave the UFC. I don't think he should.
What is that you're saying?
Ferguson.
And who's he gonna fight at welterweight?
Don't care. Put him at the bottom, unranked.
Hey. Okay, you know what? I'll give you one. George. Sure. Let's see him fight George.
St. Pierre?
No. Masvidal.
Masvidal.
Yeah.
Ooh. Why? Oh, okay. See? Oh.
That's a hell of a co-main.
Oh.
And do you know what I think happens? It's one of the best shit-talking exhibitions leading up to the fight.
Oh, my God.
And then I think Jorge knocks his head off. I really do.
I do too. You know, I think the same thing. Tony Ferguson needs to move up and Jorge has a new opponent, especially because the Diaz brothers are busy.
Yep.
And Usman's not taking him.
Boy's busy.
And Boy's busy. And like, he's not going to fight Tyron or, you know, like it's that is that's the match. Okay. I'm going to ask the Pretty Neat podcast listeners.
Yep.
A huge favor.
All 10 of you.
You need to spread our podcast around if that fight happens.
Now,
we called it first.
There could be a little bit of Stylebender going up to light heavyweight and how bad he looked. Tony is not a huge guy, just the structure of his body. And I think it was DC, but it might have been the fourth chair they had, who was a guy I wasn't for Din something.
Din Thomas, yeah.
Din Thomas, thank you.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Din.
Sure. Me too. Din Thomas, come on the Pretty Neat podcast. It was either him or DC who said that when you're a guy like Tony Ferguson and sort of the unorthodox, the unexpected, the sort of herky jerk, kind of weird, you never really know what's coming from where style of fighting.
Sure.
The problem is it works until it doesn't. And then, now you could say that about everything, but you can't really say that about everything because Francis's power works all the time.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think of it like, you know, if Tony was the way the herky jerk, like you described, reminds me of Dancing Fire, and Dariush was a fire blanket. You just smother it.
Yeah.
Just put him out.
And
you know,
and
Francis
frankly,
Ngannou is a dump truck of water. You know?
It's exactly right. and Tony, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it's not a grappling tournament.
Yep.
Right? It's not a jiu-jitsu tournament. And some of he has incredible cardio. He doesn't get tired. All of the accolades you could throw at him, but it's not that he's losing. It
looks like he doesn't know why he's there. Like he's kind of just like, all right, time for the fight.
Well, no, you know what it really looks like to me. I don't mean to just like flagrantly correct you, but you see this.
Correct me, sir. I'm here to learn. You are the teacher, my friend.
You see this in boxing You see this in baseball. They call it the yips. All of a sudden, the second baseman can't throw the ball to first. You familiar with this?
No.
Yeah. So this is a thing that even happens in the major leagues. There'll be like 4 days where a really solid everyday major league second baseman suddenly has all kinds of trouble just making the routine throw to first. And they'll say, like, I have no idea. This has always worked literally my whole life. I can't figure it out. Deontay Wilder, good example. He didn't have to learn the fundamentals of boxing the way that his opponents did. Not that he didn't learn them, he did. The way that he didn't have to have the elite sort of minutia of boxing training that a guy like Tyson Fury or even Luis Ortiz, who's maybe a better example, right? If you watch either of Tyson Fury's fights with Luis Ortiz, what you saw was a much better boxer in Luis Ortiz, but a guy with power that is like a semi truck driving into a fucking nitroglycerin plant.
Yeah, eventually they get figured out.
Eventually
there's a force strong enough.
Well, that rocket is going to hit you eventually. You can only stay out of the way of that rocket for so long. Now, Tyson Fury figured him out twice, but that's kind of the thing, right? And so Mike Tyson is a real good example of this too. The knockouts, Tyson was more sort of technically skilled than Deontay Wilder, but the same idea is as soon as the main thing for him stopped working, he didn't know what to do. Yep. And this is kind of what I see with Tony. Is Tony's like, this bullshit that I throw has always worked.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do when it doesn't.
Yep. You're totally right.
And here's the thing. That's not an original thought. Either DC or Din Thomas said that.
Yeah, no, I've heard comparable things.
I think it's accurate in this case. And
I do too.
Unfortunately for Tony, assuming he doesn't move over to welterweight, but realistically, even if he does, where does he go? You're going to put him in there with Connor, who's going to figure it out. You're going to put him in there with Beneil, who just figured him out. Okay, so you're going to put him in there with Dustin Poirier or Justin Gaethje or Charles Oliveira. Who?
If Connor loses, that's a big, I don't see Connor fighting Tony at all. Like, even if Connor lost, Connor wouldn't fight again unless he needed money.
He obviously doesn't need money. But what I'm saying is, where does Tony go? Because there's not a big enough name on here for a guy who isn't just going to fucking beat the shit out of him.
Diego Sanchez in another organization. Maybe he goes to the School of Self-Awareness.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I really, really don't know. I feel for him because I'm a Tony fan. And I just want the best for him. I think a move up will be some relaxation off that weight cut, preparing for bigger, stronger opponents. A completely new field of opponents.
What if he goes down and fights Max Holloway?
He would look terrible down another 10 pounds. He already looks awful at weigh-ins. I don't think I could handle that. I don't think he even made championship weight for any fight except for his interim belt. I don't think I think he's always been 146.
All right, fine. Put him in there with Jorge.
Yeah. I like Jorge. I think Jorge's the move. Let's talk about the main. Actually, first Beneil. Beneil, I hope he gets his Tesla. That's funny. I heard that's going to happen.
No, but who else calls out Marxism and Elon Musk in the same post-fight interview?
Yeah, not since that kid who gets the twister every time he fights, Bryce Mitchell.
That's right. and Colby Covington, I guess.
No, yeah, right. No, that was a great call out. He sure hilarious. Was. Man, he's a monster. I think I'd like to see him fight Gaethje. I'd like to see him to fight Gaethje for a top contender. It goes without saying Dustin Connor is top contender. Whoever wins that is going to fight Olives or DeBronx or Charles Oliveira. I'll just say all of it so that everyone knows who I'm talking about. But yeah, I think he's in a contender spot, and I think Gaethje would be cool. Hey, lightweight is exciting. And you know what? You know what else is nice? And when I say lightweight is exciting, is that it's exciting now, not because it's complicated. It's exciting because it's complex. Like there's not like, oh well, we have to wait for this time and
Right.
Khabib is this, and then there's Ramadan, like there's no Ramadan to worry about anymore. And like, there's just like there's a lot of weight lifted off of it. Now it's like mixing and matching all of the contenders, and a lot of them have faced each other and a lot of them haven't.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic time to be
And
a lightweight
a lot of
fan.
them, in the case of Connor and Dustin, they're 1-1 now, right?
What about Beneil and Chandler?
Well, so I think what I do is I set up a bracket, and it's Dustin and Connor in one, and it's Michael Chandler and Beneil Dariush in the other. And then the winner of those two fights each other and gets Oliveira. That's what I think. And Beneil has to be in that at this point, but what do you do with Justin Gaethje? Maybe you add a third bracket and throw Gaethje and a guy
I think you throw Gaethje at Charles in the meantime.
Yeah, you could do that.
Because, give him a shot at the belt too, because his shot was at Khabib. And I mean, hey,
whose shot?
Gaethje? Gaethje's. Yeah,
well, he lost to him, but all right.
And he lost, and that happens. That happens. You don't necessarily get to fight for the belt after you lose, but Connor has. Not just saying that. But what I'm getting at is that Connor and Dustin's July. So we've got a long time until that happens. So earliest we might see that fight with maybe Dustin or Connor for the belt would be in the holidays.
Yeah. So I think July is 8 weeks away, man. It's not that far away.
Yeah. So maybe Charles Oliveira fights in August
against maybe.
And then that sets up the next fight, because then you can put Gaethje against the winner of Dustin and Connor as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be an entertaining fight.
And you've still got Beneil and Michael Chandler in there.
Yep. And they could also be backups for anything because they're all deserving. And everybody could be backups for anything in any of these fights.
Yeah, and as we've seen, they've done a good job of, they're not afraid to put two high-profile lightweight fights on the same card right next to each other.
Nope.
And that's another benefit the UFC has from handling sort of everything in-house, right?
Their business model for getting this stuff out and producing is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
they've really
props to them.
They've really figured it out. So Beneil, I guess I'm interested to see how he does against a guy who's one step up. That's what I'll say. I want to see him against a Gaethje, a Poirier. I'd like to see him against Michael Chandler, frankly.
I would too. Yeah, and that might be the fight.
Yeah,
that might be the fight, especially after today. And those two would be a war. That would be a very, very interesting fight. I would be very excited to see that. Michael Chandler, though, I want to move into this main event. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, of course.
Well, the first few minutes, I gotta say, Chandler was looking good.
Well, it was a little bit of back and forth, right? Because he
ended on two judges' cards
in the first round. Yeah, and I think you give him the first round, but remember he picked up Oliveira and slammed him.
That was his mistake.
Kind of. But then Oliveira had his back, and I think it was DC said, you don't want to let these jiu-jitsu guys get started, because once they get started, it's too late. And you could see Oliveira had that body lock in there, that body triangle. He had, they did.
Oh, yeah.
Really incredible high-level hand fighting. Like the way they were moving each other's hands around was incredible. Very, very high level. Yeah. Very entertaining to watch. And Michael Chandler did an excellent job of getting out of that, even giving Oliveira his back at one point. And then I think we saw the power that Michael Chandler really has, because he had Oliveira in trouble in that first round. And there was that moment where he did he gave Oliveira a chance to kind of stay on the ground, and he engaged from the top.
Yep.
That's probably where he lost the fight.
He needed to let him up.
Probably should have stood him up. And I think Chandler would say that if he said it and I haven't heard it. That's because
if he hasn't said it, it's because he hasn't watched it. And if he hasn't said it and he has watched it, he hasn't watched it again.
Because striking, very clearly he had the advantage, even though he's shorter, which really stood out to me, and does not have the reach. That man has very serious power.
His extension, though, he may not have that reach, but he can extend. He can push off, and he can. I mean, he did it to Dan Hooker too.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, it showed that he. I mean, I think he will be a champion.
Yes.
I think that he will be.
I think so too.
And I think he will be for a long time too. When he is, I think he'll have a good reign. But I think Olives might as well. And I think Chandler also showed that if there's one thing that you need in MMA, it is constant vigilance.
He
don't get all moody after something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
But I gotta say, like, the fact that he pushes forward, forward so hard, and I thought he was going to win, and up until it went on the ground, and then after that slam, like you said, nope. I thought he was done, and it was over, and it was submission round 1.
Well, and he almost
still dry and everything.
He almost had Oliveira submitted himself. He had that. He had that.
The guillotine.
Yes, thank you. No, guillotine. He had the guillotine in there tight.
Yeah. But man, round 2. That's where that reach came in, because that was accuracy right there.
Well, and that's what makes lightweight so exciting, is they're big enough that one punch can change the game. And frankly, I'm gonna. And this is Dan Mergliotta, but Michael Chandler was on the ground on all fours, and he let Oliveira hit him 5 more times.
Yeah, he did. He got hit.
You've got to get in there. You have. What are you waiting for? He's not defending himself. But I'm going to let that go. I did my reference already. You know, I also Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler both all class after that fight. All class. True respect for each other.
Did you see the videos of Oliveira arriving in Sao Paulo today?
No.
Oh, beautiful. He's on a fire truck with the flag and a belt, loud music, party in the streets, man. It's beautiful. It reminded me of Ngannou when he went to Cameroon. Like, it's just like going home, and they're in front of his gym. So obviously it's hometown. And I mean, the same thing would happen to either of us if we were coming home with the belt.
Yeah,
except I have no friends. So
that's what would happen.
I love the shit out of my friends. I got a lot. They'd all come.
That's it's
so we kind of already talked a little bit about what might be next for Oliveira. Maybe Gaethje or what happens with Conor and Dustin. I think it's got to be Conor or Dustin next, and I just hope that they don't shelve him until that happens, especially because anything can happen. Well, anything can happen in the fight. You know, Conor gets knocked out, Dustin gets knocked out, whatever. Injury,
anything can happen.
It could just suck.
I mean, how many times did we not see Tony and Khabib when that's what everyone wanted to see?
But then again, like we said, it's complex. So
it's very complex, but the UFC likes to keep their champions busy. They want their champions to defend their belts. And
hell yeah.
You have Poirier and Conor happening already. Michael Chandler wants to fight again. You put him in there with a guy like Beneil Dariush. You have that perfect stopgap, so to speak, for Oliveira and Justin Gaethje. Now the real wrench is if Gaethje wins.
Yeah,
which he certainly could. I mean, he might even be favored in that fight. He's the more public name.
Yeah. I think that would be fun, to be quite frank. And he was the interim champ. Hey, let him have the real one. I'm all for a Gaethje champ. So for it. He's entertaining to watch.
Yep. Okay. Do you have any wrap up thoughts on UFC 262?
I do. I have one, and it's going to lead into a quick game that I have with you. Does that sound good with you? Do you like games?
Is it about who was sitting cage side?
Yeah, it is a little
All
bit.
right, let's do it.
Okay, I got to send you something you might want.
All right.
Because this is going to be partially, well, we'll see. I want to ask what you want to do, but I'm sending this to you.
Just hit me with it.
Cool. In case you didn't know, Derrick Lewis.
I did.
Was there in attendance, being a Houston native, and I also being in Texas. Shout out Derrick Lewis. Come on the Pretty Neat podcast.
Actually, I heard you on Joe Rogan. Don't come on the Pretty Neat podcast.
Oh, I would have him on. No problem.
Of course we would. Of course we would.
But he said he broke into a presser and he said that somebody was talking a lot of crap in the gym about him and that he didn't really have any interest in Ngannou. He just said Ngannou makes him look fat, and that's why he hates Ngannou.
Which is why everyone loves Derrick Lewis.
Which is why everyone loves Derrick Lewis 100%. But he said that somebody in his gym has been talking shit and he needs to fight them. And apparently
who is that person?
This person is UFC strawweight Lauren Murphy.
Okay.
So Lauren, I think she's a strawweight. I could be wrong. She might be a bantamweight.
Okay.
But Lauren Murphy and Derrick Lewis are friends. And they like tour a little bit together in Texas. Like they'll do watch parties and stuff at bars and things like that.
Okay.
Promotions. So they're friends. But Derrick Lewis is 265 pounds.
Yeah.
And Lauren Murphy is not.
No.
Now we could argue that Lauren could be scrappy enough to win this fight.
No, we're not going to do that.
Then we're not going to do that because we need to handicap this fight.
Okay.
So I would like to now do a super duper handicapper of Derrick Lewis versus Lauren Murphy.
I'm all about it.
Okay.
Tell the people how the handicapper super duper fight works.
Yes, the handicapper super duper fight, the super duper handicapper fight, rearrange those orders of those words and it works. Here's how it works. We're going to do 5 rounds between these two fighters and we're going to add advantages or disadvantages to them.
And if you've listened to previous episodes, we have handicapped me versus Yuri Prohaska.
Yes. In a previous episode.
Spoiler, I don't do very well.
This is a true story.
Yeah.
And we're just going to basically round by round add advantages or disadvantages to the fighters until we think that Lauren Murphy could actually beat Derrick Lewis in a fight.
Okay,
an MMA fight.
All of these are said with love and respect for both of these fighters. Let me ask you a question. Can I handicap the handicapper super duper fight?
How does that work? I'm going to just say yes.
Okay, I think this is pretty official, so I want to make sure you're okay with it.
Yes. It's only official if it has intro music.
That's right, and it does. So,
okay.
My argument is this. The first time we did this, and the structure of this game is that the first round, the fighter who is the clear underdog, let's say me versus Yuri Prohaska, has no advantage. That is correct. Now, I don't know that because Lauren Murphy is a professional fighter and would kick the shit out of either of us.
Yes.
But Derrick Lewis is a mountain to her coffee mug. So let's give her a small advantage in the first round. That's what I'm going to ask.
Okay.
Okay.
A small advantage in the first round. She had ghost peppers rubbed all over her gloves.
Okay.
That's the advantage she has. I'm going to say the first round is her running in a circle and Derrick not being able to catch her. And that's the first round.
Okay. Even with the ghost peppers, I don't think they're going to bother him. assuming that the referee doesn't try to force them into action, as a referee sometimes will, I'm gonna take Derrick Lewis in the first 90 seconds. Is Derrick Lewis aware of the ghost peppers?
No.
Then I'm gonna take Derrick Lewis in the first 90 seconds. If he's aware of them, I think it lasts a little longer because he's gonna be more careful. But we're not gonna pretend that he's the most careful fighter on the planet.
Well, and he can also reach. I'm sure he's got 2 feet on her.
He can, but she's much smaller than anyone he's ever fought since he was probably
and quicker.
8, and she's quicker, and she's a professional fighter. So she's gonna move her head. She's gonna do everything she can to stay out.
Just roll into him and take him down.
Exactly.
Wrap up a leg.
Maybe.
Lauren Murphy by knee bar, round 1. Heel hook.
That's what you think?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah,
let's still do round
Derrick,
2.
but I like the ghost pepper. So she keeps the ghost pepper gloves and then gets
round 2.
Mm-hmm.
She has ghost pepper gloves, and Derrick Lewis loses all depth perception.
I don't think this changes this much, and here's why.
Really?
I don't know how good his depth perception is now. That would change it
without range.
I don't know how good his depth perception is now.
What is that uppercut against Curtis Blades? He's got to have amazing depth perception.
Yeah.
Or would that just be reflexes?
I think Derrick Lewis, again, I love watching him fight. I love everything about him. He does one thing, and he'll tell you that. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Okay, round 3. Since we both agree it really won't change much. So now to recap, Lauren Murphy has ghost pepper on her gloves.
Yeah.
And Derrick Lewis has absolutely no depth perception.
Okay, but let me ask you a clarifying question. Does Derrick Lewis immediately also get vertigo or something without having depth perception?
That's a good question. Most likely it might be pretty tough.
So he's chancing it. Okay, so it's still Derrick, but it's closer because he's gonna be at least dizzy. I don't even know what it would be like to have no depth perception, but so I still am gonna take Derrick Lewis. I'm still gonna take Derrick Lewis with the ghost pepper gloves and with the lack of depth perception. I think Derrick Lewis he'll be like, fuck the ghost peppers and just deal with it later.
Probably likes ghost peppers. He'd probably try and eat the gloves.
I like ghost peppers. The flavor is incredible for about 2 seconds.
Man, I would Shane Burgos if I ate a ghost pepper. Seriously. Anyway. Okay, round 4. And here we are leading into this.
Wait, what was the advantage for round 3?
Oh yeah, sorry. So Lauren Murphy, round 3, my bad. Lauren Murphy has ghost pepper gloves. Derrick Lewis has no depth perception. Now Lauren Murphy has Goro arms. So she has 2 pairs of arms. Like Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Does she have Goro's strength?
She's pretty ripped.
Yeah,
and I gotta think that's going to give you some leverage.
But she's also 125 pounds and he's 265.
So it doesn't help. She could block more.
She could have the Iron Spider suit. I don't know if more arms are going to help.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see it unless there's a way she can hold him down with those 2 and punch him at the same time. And the reason I say
why not?
Because she weighs 125 pounds. I don't think she can hold him down.
Yeah. I don't know why I just asked. Okay. So we're at 3 rounds. Then Lauren Murphy has 2 sets of arms. So 4 arms total.
That's right.
All of them covered in ghost pepper gloves.
Mm-hmm.
And Derrick Lewis has no depth perception. And we're in agreement that after those, that Derrick Lewis would still be winning.
Yes.
Okay. Derrick Lewis is now trapped in a hamster ball for round 4. Okay, so Lauren Murphy comes out and she looks like Goro. or Katara, I think is the Nitara, I think is the female Goro in Mortal Kombat. I don't know. One of our fans will let us know on Twitter.
Yeah.
And she's got ghost pepper gloves on all 4 of her hands. Derrick Lewis has no depth perception and is now in a hamster ball. So effectively, his offense is going to be steamrolling, right?
How is she supposed to beat him? The hamster ball seems like an advantage for him.
Oh man, I didn't think through that disadvantage very well.
All right, give her a different advantage.
Okay. She gets a different advantage?
Yeah, because disadvantage for him. I just don't understand how that's that much of a disadvantage for him.
Yeah, that's a good point. He just can't strike. Okay.
Give him a different one.
He cannot stop doing jazz hands. So we kind of took away his striking a little bit, although maybe he could do a little bit of like a Stockton slap, although I guess it would be more of like a Brooklyn slap since it'd be jazzy.
Yeah, I think the issue here again is he's just so much bigger.
How is he going to take her down if he can't lock his hands? Just collide into her? Just throw his body at her?
Yes.
You think that she could get out of the way? She's small enough, right?
Without depth perception, maybe. The problem is I don't know how she's going to beat him.
She could. I think that Lauren Murphy's only route is submission.
And I just think that he's too big. I'm going to give you an example. And this is, I am reaching. I want you to know with this example.
Okay.
I train jiu-jitsu, and every now and then on Monday nights, the end of class is live rounds where the coach will put you in a situation and you have to either finish the submission or get out of the submission. And now I'm not 265, but I have been matched up with a girl who is very tough, who is probably, I'd put her at about 130. Okay. I'm not a professional athlete. I'm in okay shape.
Easy for you?
She could not physically hold me where she needed me to stay.
Okay.
So even if I had to do, jazz hands, he can't grab her wrists or something. He is so much bigger than her. I don't see how she submits him. I really don't.
He could just power it somehow. Hey, well, we got one more left.
Okay.
So that was 4. So to recap our 4, because right now it's still Derrick Lewis, which it's pretty. It's hard. That's why it's Super Duper Handicapper.
Well,
because you have to try and get there.
That's right.
And we're trying. I'm trying.
And hey, if our listeners want us to handicap one of these fights in this style, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to let you know that I put this fight, not with any handicaps, just Derrick Lewis versus Lauren Murphy on a Twitter poll. And I have tremendous pull in the Twitter poll, so you know. 100% believe Derrick Lewis would win this fight. So you know.
I'm not shocked.
I was not either. Anyway, so to recap, Lauren Murphy has 4 arms. All of them are ghost pepper on the gloves. Derrick Lewis has no depth perception, and cannot stop doing jazz hands for whatever reason. Now let's go ahead and add. Let's go ahead and add one more.
Okay.
Derrick Lewis has been hypnotized to believe that Herb Dean, the ref, is an actual werewolf, and that Lauren Murphy is there to help him defeat the werewolf.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that Derrick Lewis will be terrified for his life and believe Lauren Murphy is there to help.
Okay. Here's what I think happens.
And he also can't stop doing jazz hands and has no depth perception.
And that's fine. I think now, does he know it's a fight?
Yes.
Okay. I think what happens is he is mostly concerned with Herb Dean. Herb Dean, come on the Pretty Neat podcast. And she has to engage him, which is not as hard as you would think, because Herb Dean is going to keep a certain distance anyway, because that's what referees do. And certainly Derrick Lewis isn't going to try to go towards him if he believes he's a werewolf.
However,
Now,
Herb Dean will move towards Derrick if Lauren is moving towards Derrick.
Sure. Is it a full moon?
Absolutely.
Okay. So he's like mid transformation.
And they're fighting outdoor. Like it's a rare occasion.
Okay. I think what happens is Lauren Murphy gets close enough to him to try to do something. I don't think the ghost peppers of the forearms really help. I don't think at that point the depth perception is an issue. And I think ultimately, what an absurd situation. I think ultimately Derrick Lewis hits her with an elbow or something, and the sheer force of that knocks him out, or her out, excuse me. That's what I think.
I like that. All right. For everybody who's listening as well, I'm pulling these advantages and disadvantages off a mile-long list at random that we made. So it's kind of like I'm not picking them and making a plan.
But this is why it's fun.
Absolutely, it makes it more fun. I honestly see Derrick Lewis trying to throw Lauren Murphy out of the octagon to lure the werewolf away.
It's definitely possible. Or he knocks her out thinking the werewolf will attack her and I can get away.
Yeah, that's
we're
kind
also
of what I'm
assuming
thinking.
Derrick Lewis is afraid of werewolves.
We are assuming that Derrick Lewis is afraid of werewolves. This might be a catastrophic failure on my logic's part. And you know what? I might even jump to the conclusion that that's how this fight ends. Is he thinks Herb Dean is a werewolf, so he rips him in half first.
Yeah, very.
Or all I did was end up with Herb Dean getting technically submitted.
Or the Black Beast, the nickname is literal, and Derrick Lewis also turns into some sort of monster when exposed to the full moon.
Oh man, Christ on a cracker! You're probably right.
I probably am. That if there has been no truer statement in this entire podcast, I am probably right about that.
Yep. All right. Well, I think Derrick Lewis wins this Super Duper Handicapper fight. What do you think?
I think Derrick Lewis wins going away. I think even if everyone knew what the advantages for / disadvantages, the advantages for Lauren Murphy and the disadvantages for Derrick Lewis, I think Derrick is still like a minus 1,500 favorite.
Yeah. And you know what? Lauren Murphy is a badass. I am a Lauren Murphy fan. Lauren Murphy,
Lauren Murphy,
come on the Pretty Neat podcast and defend your position. I am offering that to you. I'm extending it as an invitation. We would love to have you on just to shoot the shit. But also, you need to. Can you beat Derrick Lewis? Have you beat Derrick Lewis? Let us know. Okay, that was a fun game. I appreciate you playing with me, Dom. What do we got coming up on the MMA times this coming weeks, if you're ready to move on?
UFC Fight Night
188, Garbrandt and Font
from the UFC Apex. So I'm gonna preface this. I am an unabashed Cody Garbrandt fanboy.
I'm a fan of Cody Garbrandt too, and I know that TJ Dillashaw is my favorite fighter, as you like to point out every single chance you get.
And TJ Dillashaw, come on the Pretty Neat podcast.
Shout out TJ, come on the Pretty Neat podcast. Yeah, I am a huge TJ fan. That's true, but I mean, like we said before, he cheated. You know, if you cheat, you cheat. You got to pay your comeuppance, fight clean, fight Cody clean, and we can talk about fandom again. But I'm not feeling Garbrandt on this one. I'm not.
No. Oh, no, interesting.
I think Font TKO round 2. I think he's going to catch Cody with a head kick, and after some good punches, I don't think Cody's going to close it. I don't think Cody's going to close it in. I don't think he's going to pack the heat. I don't think he's going to bring his gun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Pack some heat. Take a gun. Pack a little heat.
Tell me how this fight goes in your mind. I really want to know, because I believe Cody can win. Of course. Yeah. Of course he can win. I'm not saying he won't. I love him to death. I don't see it. I think Font round 2. And we're not making picks for this one because it's not a numbered card or anything, unless you want to. But
No,
I wasn't planning on it. Cool.
Not for
Nah.
season term purposes.
Cool.
So Cody's only losses.
Uh-huh.
Roided up TJ Dillashaw at 217 and 227 respectively.
Uh-huh.
Just about a year apart, a little less than a year apart on each of those. And Pedro Munoz in front of John Jones and Anthony Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Then he separated Rafael Assunção's jaw,
Sure.
and sort of whole bottom half of his head. From,
and that's a beautiful knockout. Jeez.
One of my favorites. But so I was gonna say the only people who have ever beaten him were Pedro Munoz when Cody was not in the right headspace. I would argue probably came back from the second Dillashaw knockout too quickly.
Sure. And hey, Font lost to Munoz also.
Okay. Yep. And a roided up TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah.
Those are the only two. Actually, that was on the Bisping St. Pierre card that we talked about earlier. So UFC 217. So the issue is.
But who has he beat? Who are the last three he's beat?
Well, Assunção, and then the big one, Dominic Cruz. But that was all the way. And I did not pay off the tees.
Sure.
So I apologize about that. So we were talking about times where, and if we cut this is fine, where fighters have looked really confident and it didn't go very well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I thought of Tony. The other fight that I really thought, oh, this fighter is going to win, and then they really didn't, was Ronda against Amanda Nunes all the way back at 207, December 30th, 2016.
Uh-huh.
There was like a 10-page ESPN article about Ronda, how she had figured it out. She'd changed her training, her coaches, all this stuff. And Amanda Nunes said, very cool. What if I punch the fuck out of her?
That was the second most I'd ever made on DraftKings, was because I picked Nunes.
That fight was, and I mean, that started Amanda's reign, and she's not giving it up, right? So
I rode that $38 for like 2 months.
Damn right. So in front of that, Takia Mizugaki, Thomas Almeida, Augusto Mendez, Enrique Briones, Marcus.
Font,
Charles Stanford's in there. He's fought on a lot of big cards. Cody Garbrandt has.
Sure, yeah, he definitely has, and he's got the advantage in that being the headliner, I think. And that could affect Font. I do.
Yeah,
but Font, like, he got finished by Pedro, just like Cody. Given he was submitted, he wasn't knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
But according to MMA math, Font lost to Assunção, but it was a decision. And Cody beat Assunção, so Cody should beat him, right? But his last 3 fights, he beat Sergio Pettis, he beat Ricky Simone, and he beat Marlon Moraes. Like, those are all the top guys.
The Marlon Moraes one is the most impressive one. He also beat Thomas Almeida. He beat Matt Schnell. Shout out Matt Schnell. Come on the Pretty Neat Podcast.
So I just like Font in this one. I think that Font can hit you. And if he can hit you, he throws heavy kicks that are well hidden, and he has a really good jab. And Cody gets caught, but like he might be able to move around the jab. Like, he can slip. That's his advantage, is he can move. He does not stay still.
Well, Cody Garbrandt is so fast.
Yeah, he's so fast.
You know what I think we have with Cody? I'm going to be honest, and this is my bias talking a little bit. You know what they say about Rose is that Rose, it's all up here for her, right? It's all
in her head.
It's all in her head. If she's good up top, she's there's nobody they can put in there with her that they can.
I see that with Cody too. Yeah.
I see that with Cody, and
you're absolutely right.
I think that Cody has it figured out. If you heard him on Joe Rogan's podcast, he had a gnarly bout with COVID-19.
Yeah.
I don't think people really if you're listening to this podcast, you do, but your average, you do appreciate it, is what I was about to say. But your average fan doesn't. They don't really understand what these fighters go through, physically, right? They don't understand the physical toll this takes on them.
Sure.
You're sort of your average fans. So I think that you wouldn't look at Cody and say, oh, well, I mean, he's a professional athlete in phenomenal shape. What do you mean he had a lot of trouble? But the breakdown that their body goes through, the wear and tear. So having said all of that, I am a Cody fanboy. I will be watching this fight very closely.
I want him to win. I do. I'm not a big Rob Font fan in the sense of character, like I've said before. And I mean, not that Cody's, of course, demonstrated the most amazing character on the planet or anything like that. Rob Font hasn't rubbed me the wrong way or anything, but I like Cody. He's cool. And I love I don't know the entire story with the young man that he always brings to all of his shows entirely, except for maybe that he had cancer at one point.
Yes,
but,
something like that. Yeah.
But hell yeah. Like I'm a brotherly type guy, you know, and you're my brother, man. I would, I mean, if I was a champ, I would want to bring you with me too.
Well, I would hold the belt. I'd be your ring girl.
Well, as long as I'm not Dan Mergliotta after 262, because for anybody who didn't watch the replay of Charlie Oliveira getting the belt put on his waist, when Dana White put the strap on him, the buckle hit Dan Mergliotta in the nuts, and poor Dan just grabbed his junk and backed off. And I mean, those clips are a couple of pounds of gold and leather. That hurts. You have to pay a lot of money in Vegas to have someone do that to you, and you have to be expecting it to enjoy it.
They were in Houston though, so you never know.
Yeah, they were in Houston, so you can really get that done anywhere. You don't have to be in Vegas. Anyway,
that's right.
Went on a little diatribe there. So yeah, I want to see Cody win, but I think Font is going to get this one after clipping him with a head kick in round 2. That's what I see happening.
I think Cody stops him.
Yeah?
Round 2 or 3. Probably not the first round. I would really like to see Cody go slow and sort of feel Rob Font out a little bit, because the times where Cody has lost, and really both TJ fights, Cody had chances to put him away.
Yeah.
And, I mean, in the first fight, literally TJ was saved by the bell. If that fight was 10 seconds longer, Cody wins.
It's weird. It's like when he gets them to that spot, he goes into like this let's go mode, but not like a finish him mode. It's weird.
Well, he's almost too tough for his own good, right? He'll stand in there and trade punches with you, and you cannot do that with TJ Dillashaw. That doesn't work. You really can't do it with Cody Garbrandt either. But I will be watching this fight pretty closely on Saturday night. It's definitely the fight on this card that we will talk most about. That's for sure. Although I do love Ben Rothwell, and he's fighting late change. He's going to fight Chris Barnett. That'll be fun. And then, the Jan Esparza fight will be interesting too, to see what happens ultimately, how that impacts what's going on with Rose. So I'm a big UFC Fight Night fan. We've sang the UFC and Fight Night praises, but there's really nothing on a Saturday night like turning on a fight night and it's pretty great. So
it's pretty great. It's one of the neatest things around. I'm glad that we get to talk about it instead of us just knowing it.
That's right.
On Friday we have some Bellator too, but I don't want to talk on that just yet.
Who do we have on Bellator?
Oh, it's Cyborg. Cyborg is fighting. I'm always ready to watch her eat. It's like watching the Velociraptors get fed in Jurassic Park. I just want to watch for the blood. But before we get into that, 2 things. Jack Hermanson, Edmund Shabazian was moved onto this card too. It was supposed to happen either this past show or a couple of weeks ago, but
2 ago. Yep.
That is a huge middleweight fight. I am so excited for that one, and I think Edmund Shabazian might put it on the hammer myself.
Okay.
But that's going to be a big one. I'm really excited for that. I don't know if you have an opinion either way. Then in the heavyweight, also Justin Tafa and Jared Vandera. And Vandera, he's from my hometown, and I got to root for him for that reason. Not my specific hometown, but the area. Trains out of Team Quest with Sam Alvey, who we just talked to.
Yep.
And I think he's going to get this one done really quick. I think this is just going to be one of those fights that's boom in a second. I'm eager for this one. Under 2 minutes. Jared Bandera.
He got knocked out by Sergey Spivak on the Blades Lewis card just a couple months ago.
Yep.
And then he was on the Contender Series. I like Justin Tafa.
I do too. He's got that Samoan power. I just think he's gonna get clipped. That's my thought. He's gonna get clipped. And this is a hometown. This is me doing fanboy rooting.
Yeah. Not too far from where I'm sitting now, actually.
Yeah. I think I saw him fight a few years ago, and that's where I picked him up. Anyway, that was all I really had on UFC coming up this weekend.
Yeah. You know what? Jared Vandera, come on the Pretty Neat podcast. Friend of the show, Jared Vandera, Team Quest with Sam Alvey. Let's get this one done, Jared. I can't help it. I love when Ashley Yoder fights. I always pull for her, even though she hasn't looked great. Speaking of people who Sam Alvey is friends with, Big Daddy Joe Stevenson actually went to high school with my older brother, so that's pretty cool. And you know what? That guy is a fucking beast. That's all I'm gonna say.
So with all the developments at lightweight, I think it would be appropriate. We have a nice selection of champions in the UFC right now, and the International Fight Week is coming up in a couple of months, month and a half, midway point of the season, if you will. A lot of things can change. I think it is time for us to predict who the champions will be at the end of the year 2021. And that's it. Nothing crazy. We'll just come back and see how we did.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And I think if you believe that there will be an interim, if you want, or like something, you can throw that out my way too.
I'm not going to go that far.
And I've written down all the top contenders as well, so we can kind of breeze through each one. Sound good?
Okay. Yep.
First, women's strawweight, currently Rose Namajunas. And this could also be some trivia if you want. Top contenders, Zhang Weili, of course, Joanna, and Yan Jianan. I am a believer that this is an and still situation. I think Rose maybe will fight Zhang one more time realistically and defend it. And I don't know if she'll fight again by the end of the year.
We are in total agreement.
Awesome. Women's flyweight.
Let me think about this one.
I think I only need one bullet.
That's right.
Nice. If you don't get that and you're listening to this podcast,
that's Valentina Shevchenko. We want the listeners.
You are looking for the Pretty Feet podcast, and
which I also host on Thursdays.
Oh, that's Thursdays?
Yeah, we moved it. We moved it. Yeah, we moved it.
Got it. This makes much more sense. Women's bantamweight, Amanda Nunes. Yep. She's scheduled to fight Juliana Pena in August, so cool. You know. Holly Holm and Aspen Ladd are the other top contenders.
Yeah, that's fun.
The Lioness. And still in agreement there too.
Yeah.
I feel like it. Women's featherweight. We either have Amanda Nunes. You could throw Kayla Harrison in there if some sort of magic happened, or nobody. The whole thing is just gone. Which is kind of what it is now. So, I mean, I guess we could say no one. What do you think?
I think no one is a cop-out, so I'm going to say Amanda Nunes.
Cool. We'll go with that.
And and that may very well mean that she has, one of my favorite UFC cards every year is the big New Year's Eve one.
Yeah,
And
one of my favorites.
It's always great. She very well could fight Kayla Harrison on that card for all I know. Kayla Harrison, come on the Pretty Neat podcast. Kayla Harrison, we're gonna have to really make sure you understand that you saw the testing, but Amanda still beats her.
Yep, I think so too. I do too. All right, we're now into men's.
Yeah.
Men's flyweight, Davison Figueiredo is the current champ. He's scheduled to fight Brandon Moreno in June 12th. Followed closely behind Brandon, though, are Oscar Ansarov and Alejandre Pantoja.
This is the first one I'm actually curious to hear I want your thoughts. We might disagree on this. What do you think?
I think that it is and still. Okay. I think that Davison keeps it. I think he's going to beat Brandon Moreno or lose the rematch.
Well, in which case those are the two ways it could go. Yes.
Yeah. In which case it's a trilogy, and he wins the trilogy.
Okay.
Or I think he beats Oscar Ansarov.
Okay. So I'm gonna say Brandon Moreno here.
Okay, you're gonna say Moreno. How do you think this goes? Do you think he wins and defends one more time, or just wins and doesn't fight again?
Brandon beats him in June and then defends against someone random.
Cool.
Maybe in September.
Nice. I'd like to see what happens there. This will be fun to look at the end of the year. Now we are men's bantamweight. Current champ Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah.
Top three are Piotr Jan, Corey Sandhagen.
Champ, but all right.
Yeah. Piotr Jan's in there. Corey Sandhagen's in there. I included Cody Garbrandt in the discussion. I'm
not your favorite fighter though.
I'm not sure. I'm genuinely not sure how to go on this one. I was kind of leaning towards Corey myself. I think Corey's going to come in this year and become the champ.
He's the new hotness for sure. So let's be realistic here. Jan and Sterling are going to fight again, and Jan's going to win because the gap was too great.
Okay.
So
I think Corey and Piotr are going to fight for an interim.
No,
because Aljo's out with an injury. Isn't he still?
No, that won't be an interim. Interims are for pussies. So what do you think?
I'm going with Corey Sandhagen.
Oh, you said that. I'm sorry.
Corey Sandhagen's going to be the champion at bantamweight at the end of 2021.
I'm going Dominic Cruz. No, Cody. I'm going to go Cody Garbrandt. I think Cody beats Rob Font. I think he gets a shot at Sandhagen or Sterling or Jan, because if he does beat Rob Font, he's right back in there. He's a big name. He's exciting. I think Cody Garbrandt is the men's bantamweight title or
rightful champ,
men's bantamweight belt holder at the end of the year. Now, that may very well be that he takes the belt on December 30th.
Yeah.
But it's still in the calendar year.
Oh, yeah. I'm all the way up to New Year's Eve.
It wouldn't be, it wouldn't be December 30th. What date would that card be? That would be December 25th. So probably 18th.
Okay. Yeah.
The big one will be either the 18th or I guess January 2nd.
They might. They do that sometimes.
Yeah,
but
Christmas on a Saturday is going to make it weird. But December 18th will be their big one then, probably. So around
probably
there.
The big one. Okay. Yeah. So you got Cody Garbrandt returning to the throne. I think that would be a beautiful story arc myself. That's the art part of mixed martial arts.
Yep.
As we like to say.
We do.
That would be exciting. All right. Now we're into men's featherweight. Currently Alexander Volkanovski. Top up there, Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega, Korean Zombie. Brian Ortega and Alexander Volkanovski are hosting the Ultimate Fighter.
Yes.
There is no fight scheduled betwixt them, but it does look like that's the fight
that we know
of this year. And what's your pick? I went first last time.
Well, I have tricked you into going first every time. Oh. I think the champion in this division is not Volkanovski, and I'm really torn between Holloway and Brian Ortega.
Okay.
How old is Brian Ortega?
Brian Ortega's young, 28.
Yeah.
20.
Now I don't know how old Volkanovski is. He is 30.
Volkanovski?
No, Brian Ortega. I think that the champion in this division is Brian Ortega.
Me too. That is funny. Yep.
Okay.
I think Ortega submits him. I think Ortega catches him in a guillotine or
Brian
an armbar.
Ortega is a beast.
So sneaky. Men's lightweight. This is a fun one.
Yeah,
we've been talking about it all night, so I guess we don't even have to say anything.
I like Paul Felder here. No.
What I wouldn't give to see Felder fight for a belt.
Where are you going with this one?
I'm going Conor McGregor.
Oh, you stole it from me. I'm also going Conor McGregor. Damn it.
No way.
Yeah.
That is so funny. Okay.
Yep.
So we have to be thinking the same thing then. How are you thinking this transpires?
I think Conor beats Dustin.
Okay.
I think Conor beats whoever the champion is after that. And I'm not certain that it's going to be Charles Oliveira. I actually think we could have a situation where Conor fights Michael Chandler for the belt. And I think Conor is a nightmare for Michael Chandler.
I do too. It's Aldo part 2 in my head.
I think everything Conor is good at, and I know you don't like him, Conor is phenomenally skilled at a great many things in an MMA cage. And I think every single one of them...
I'm not entertained by him as much as I used to be.
That's fine. I think every one of them is a weakness for Michael Chandler. I think Conor starches Beneil Dariush.
Mm-hmm.
I think Conor Charles Oliveira is interesting, but... because that could be the fight too if Conor beats Dustin. Now, of course, if Conor loses to Dustin in 2 months, then we're both wrong immediately. But that's
we'd both be wrong immediately. And I think that I'm in this place where it's either Conor fighting Oliveira or Gaethje or Chandler for the belt in December, and I can frankly see him having all of them. I really can. I can see he has the tools to beat all of them.
Yeah,
if he gets past Dustin, Dustin
really is the toughest matchup for him.
He really is the toughest matchup. And if he can come back in July, a changed man, and really put on a show, not just beat Dustin, but destroy Dustin, it is going to be definitely a big giant piece of evidence that our hypothesis was correct.
Yeah, and we remember the knockout that Dustin had, but Conor won the first round.
Yeah.
So, and Conor knocked him out the first time they fought. So I know Dustin's better now, but it's not that, and to beat Conor, you have to damn near kill him. Let's be honest. You really do. So he's a tough son of a bitch. So
he taps when he has lost. He has not tapped early in any of his fights.
That is correct.
Well, that's funny that we were on the same page. All right. Men's welterweight. I'm going to say and still. I don't think we have to really say much. Do you think Covington will give him a good run if Covington's next? No, you don't? Just a repeat?
Nope.
Rinse and repeat? Same thing? Or?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Middleweight. Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa. He's scheduled to fight Martin Vettori in June.
Yeah, that's cool. This is also an and still.
Me too.
Now, and I don't think this is what's happened.
Okay.
But it is possible. I just don't think this is who Stylebender is. But it is possible. We've seen guys have their confidence get shaken before.
Yeah. Yeah, he did lose to Jan.
So... And suddenly it's like I was talking about with the yips in baseball. Suddenly Stylebender's like, wait, everything I did before worked and now it doesn't. I don't think that happens in this division, but
I can see a future in which Martin Vettori wins in June. It's not clear. I can see the pressure being
this
overwhelming.
June, like in a month.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I can, but I can see a rematch and I can see him losing. So like, it's just one of those things where it's how Israel comes back, like you said, how he comes back off the loss.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because Martin Vettori is going to be hyper aggressive, and if that's not what Israel needs right after coming off losing, we could see a different side of Israel we haven't seen. It might be a weaker side, I guess I should say. So yeah, well, we both picked and still. We both think the same thing.
Yeah.
Men's light heavyweight. Jan Blachowicz is the current champ. He's going to fight Glover in September. Glover Teixeira.
Yep.
And we've got Alexander Ratkic and Yuri Prohaska in the mix.
So you're looking past Thiago Santos and Dom Reyes.
I am going
and
to
Anthony
look,
Smith.
I am going to look past all of them in terms of timing. Anthony Smith might be the only one who might be able to line up there that could really actually be fighting for the belt. He's on a win streak, not a losing streak like Reyes.
Yeah.
Sorry. So Anthony Smith might be in that mix too.
Okay.
What do you think happens?
It's hard. I want to try to avoid recency bias. And I would really like to see them standing next to each other because Jan is a big guy. I want to say Yuri Prohaska. I want to. But I also want to make sure I'm not making the wrong call because I'm just saw him fight. So
I am taking that risk.
Good.
So okay. You can trick me into saying it first in this one if you want to see it that way. But I'm picking Yuri. I think Yuri's going to end up with the belt. I really do. And it might be recency bias. It might be fanboying because it's what I do. But I think Yuri takes it in December. Or he fills in for an injury. Because September is pretty far. It is entirely possible that it's Glover or it's Jan and that's it. You know, they fight in September and nothing happens after that.
I'm going to say Yuri Prohaska.
Yeah.
I have never been that sold on Jan Blachowicz. He seems like a kind of a placeholder type of guy. It's not going to be Glover Teixeira. We all know that. And I just think Yuri is more skilled than everybody else.
I think that if he fights this year, that it's him. I think it might actually just be timing. He said he wanted a year to prepare, which could take him off the list right away. I mean, if we take him at his word, he won't fight in a year.
Prohaska said he wants a year to prepare?
Yep. And he did say he wouldn't join the UFC until he was ready, and he didn't. Maybe I should take him at his word. I'm going to change mine. I'm going to go Jan. I'm going to say he just retains.
Still. Well, I'll say Yuri with the caveat of the fight happening. If the fight doesn't happen for some reason like that, then I don't think anyone can take it from Jan.
I think that's true, and I'm actually going to copy you, even though that's it's
that's
partially
fine.
Us playing it out in our head and partially actual guessing. You know, then we only have one left, and that is heavyweight Francis Ngannou. I mean, we've got a lot of clear top contenders up there with Jones and Miocic and Derrick Lewis and Blades. I'm taking off the list for my options personally.
Yeah, it's not happening.
And there's no fights scheduled right now, but it looks like Francis and Derrick will be next.
Yeah, I don't really see how Derrick Lewis solves that equation. I mean, it's pretty obvious who I'm going to say.
Francis or Jones?
John Jones.
Think John Jones is the heavyweight champ by the end of the year?
I do. I think that assuming the fight happens, if it doesn't happen, then it's going to be Francis. But if the fight happens, then it's going to be John Jones.
Fair. I'm going to go out on a limb.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Stipe Miocic returns.
Okay, you son of a bitch.
Champ.
I thought about doing that.
I think, and this isn't me being super hypothetical out there in the future as to, I think that Francis and Lewis happens and Francis stays. I think Stipe and Jones happens.
Okay.
And I think Stipe welcomes Jones to the heavyweight division in a bad way.
Okay.
Not necessarily that it's dominant, but I think Stipe catches Jones and puts himself back in the title picture and takes it back. I really, this is me writing a movie in my head.
Yeah.
But I am going to stick with, I want Stipe to be the champ at the end of the year. Can it happen? Probably not. Am I fucking stupid? Probably, but that's what I think.
Well, so the path to it is there. There's also the path, and I'm not saying it's likely, but Derrick Lewis can take a punch and he can give a punch.
He could absolutely.
So Derrick Lewis could knock out Francis. And then you do Stipe and Derrick Lewis, and Stipe takes it from Derrick Lewis, and then for some reason at the end of the year, by the time those fights happen, you can't schedule it this year. So Stipe is holding the belt, but in that world, that means John Jones has never fought at heavyweight. Yeah. Here's the thing: John Jones is coming out of a phenomenal training organization at Jackson Wink. He is the very best MMA fighter who's ever lived. He has made, if you look at the pictures and videos of him, permanent changes to his body by getting so much bigger. Him cutting back down to 205 right now doesn't seem...
No, it does not seem physically possible anymore.
Doesn't seem possible. And we're certainly not the first people to say that. So John is looking at that heavyweight division and saying, you know what? I think I can beat every single one of them.
Yeah. I could see a world, too, where Derrick Lewis touches Francis and becomes the champ. And that's what John Jones was waiting for. Now he comes in. Instead of Ngannou, now he's fighting Lewis for the belt, which would be easier, quote unquote.
So you're saying John Jones is ducking Lewis, Francis Ngannou?
Not necessarily ducking him. He's not agreed to fight him. So as long as he's not agreed to fight him.
Yeah, but that's as much about money as it is about anything else.
It is, but it's about who's going to have the belt at the end of the year. And maybe Jones will see Lewis get the belt and think it's easier and maybe take a cheaper paycheck or take a bigger cut knowing he'd be the bigger name draw than Lewis instead of Ngannou, something like that. But I can see a lot of different paths for really any heavyweight, any one of these four to really be at the top at the end of this year. Albeit I do think Francis and Jones are the two who are the most realistically going to be in the top.
Yeah. So what's interesting to me, and I understand it, but fighting is so different than other sports for this reason. You see this in boxing all the time. Conor talked about it. He said he should not have taken as much time off and got right back in there with Dustin as he did. It's interesting to me that Jones isn't talking about a tune-up fight.
I know, right?
You can train all you want, and I know he does, and obviously he knows more about training than I ever will. So I don't mean to insinuate that I know something he doesn't, but it's weird to me that he's not looking at a Rosenstrike or even a guy like Walt Harris or Cyril Gahn or Volkov or Curtis Blades or one of those guys that sort of that second tier of heavyweights and just get in there and mix it up with someone you're not paying to train with you, right?
Yeah, you got to get in there, mix it up, get the earth moving.
Just shake things up a little bit, get the earth moving, get in there and really get in there against someone who's trying to beat you and not just train with you.
Yeah.
And John 100%. John Jones is not dumb. He knows that. But the problem is
he makes so much money for them. How do you not have him fighting for a belt?
That's exactly it.
He hasn't lost. He has not lost a championship fight.
Well, he's never lost a fight.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. He's only ever not won a fight once.
Which was a bullshit.
And that's why I won't say a loss. He just didn't win it.
But he was winning.
Yeah.
So that's really where I'm at with this whole thing for heavyweight. It's not, and I don't think the real fans think this, but I think a lot of the sort of casual fans are like, oh, it's Francis Ngannou is just going to he's just going to rocket train everybody. I just don't know that that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't either. Francis has a lot to learn. And I mean, Stipe was the most prolific reigning heavyweight champion in UFC history.
Yeah.
And like people forget that quite often, that he
Mhm.
defended it more than anybody else. And he's incredibly well-rounded.
Yeah.
And Francis is not incredibly well-rounded yet. He
No.
has all the right ingredients to be a really delicious meal right now.
Mhm.
But I don't know if it's going to sustain. You know, Stipe is potatoes. So, and I love potatoes.
Well, and Stipe took a bunch of shots in
Yeah.
in that fight, and the one that took him out was the one he made the mistake on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that Ngannou won, no question, and I would like to see Stipe retire. I've been on record of saying that, but the thing is, you run that fight simulation 100 times. Francis doesn't win 100 of them.
No.
So he's exciting. He's a specimen. There, you look at him, and there's really not a lot of human beings on planet Earth that look like that, and I get it, but I just think he's not an unsolvable problem.
Yep, I agree.
He's just not.
Yep.
So with that in mind, there's a couple of guys, and I don't think Derrick Lewis is the guy that can solve it, right? So you put Francis in there, you let him defend the title. That's the thinking. And then John Jones says, you know what, I want that. And then he comes and takes it from him, because I don't see Francis's path to victory. Anyone can get hit. Yeah, I guess that's true.
It's true, but John Jones can get out of the way better than anybody else, and can also hit better than anybody else.
Well, if the answer is it's true, but then it's not true. It's something else, right?
Yep.
So Stipe really did a number on Francis the first time.
If Stipe can pull another fight out with Francis, I think he gets it back.
See, similar to what I was saying about John Jones, I'd like to see Stipe get in there with somebody else. Get in there in a non-title fight. Take some of that pressure off, focus on your performance, play your game, do your thing, beat Cyril Gane or Gane, however you say it, whatever. Do something like that before getting right back in there with Francis. That's what I think. But again,
yeah. Hey, maybe Jan gets dethroned and he moves up. You know, there's plenty of things that could happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's a smart move for him. But
I don't either.
He didn't ask my opinion. There's a huge difference between 205 and 265. Trust me.
Yeah.
That's what I think, man. I think the champion, though, assuming the fight goes, is going to be John Jones. If it doesn't, I could see a situation where Stipe says, I'll fight him in February. And so in that case, it's still Francis.
Mm-hmm. Hey, man, that sounds really good. I'm going to take Stipe. I'm going to think he's going to find a way back.
All right.
2021, the rest of this year has some really fun MMA, I got to say.
Sure does. I think it's pretty neat.
MMA might be the neatest thing around.
Do you want to give out the I think you're pretty neat, but I respect your distance award?
I think I did last time. No, last time it was Sam. Well,
right.
Let's go ahead and do that. The I think you're pretty neat, but I respect your distance award for me goes to Jacare, because when you can break your arm like that and kind of just sit there kind of like, well, poop, now we can't play no more, like type moment, you are my hero, and your constant vigilance is something to aspire towards. Jacare, I respect your distance, and I think you're pretty neat.
Okay, I think you're pretty neat, but I respect your distance award. You know what? I'm going to give it to Michael Chandler.
Michael Chandler,
I think you're pretty neat, but I respect your distance. Should have. I mean, listen, an inch or a mile, right? I'm going to stop saying he should have won, but he was in position to win and didn't close it out.
Mhm.
So with that in mind, I think his arrival to the UFC has been fantastic. I love watching him in Embedded.
Yeah. Second fight in the UFC, and I cannot wait to watch every single other fight of his career in the UFC.
Yep. So with that said, Michael Chandler, I think you're pretty neat, but I respect your distance.
Sounds good. Hey man, I can't wait to watch MMA and this week and then talk to you about it.
Would
next
that be
week.
would that be coming out next Tuesday?
That'd probably be coming out next Tuesday,
The 25th of May.
the 25th of May. Oh shit, I almost forgot. Game night is coming back, dude. They're gonna be live. They're doing Smash Brothers at Shamrock again in the Murrieta, California. If anybody's there, go to Shamrock Irish Pub and Eatery, Murrieta, California. Go to Game Night Live, watch some video game tournaments, drink, eat food, be merry. It's pretty neat. It's on Sunday. I think June 6th. June 6th, not June 9th. June 6th.
And hey, shout out to all of our listeners, and we are going to start working on some live fight companion-y style events. Be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, and spread the word. We're on social medias. We're on everything, and yeah, we're new. So let's get all the people on board. Find out how neat MMA is with us. Dom, why don't you give us a good sign off? What's a good sign off?
Trump 24.
Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Yeah. It's like that, y'all.
It's time for the Pretty Neat Podcast.
It's like that. It's ready to make it. Come on. Yeah. Come on. It's like that. It's like that.
Hey, all, thanks for listening to the Pretty Neat Podcast. Now available on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Stitcher, and Apple Podcast and Overcast. Thanks for listening. Bye.